Hey guys, welcome to today's video. In this video, let's create an alien slug space soldier. So I thought with all these AI tools everywhere, I thought it'd be fun to just go like old school. I'm saying old school just because a couple of years ago that was the only way to model. I thought it would be fun to just jump into ZBrush and just sculpt the character, not even block them out really, just kind of start sculpt them using Dynamesh and create this wacky, super fun cartoony character. This is the style that I love, and whenever I feel like I need a boost of energy, I always look at this type of art. Just super silly, and I don't know, for some reason it fires me up, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well. All right, so let's dive in and see what we can do.
All right, so normally I go into the low poly mode and I just create kind of the block out, right? I thought in this one, let's just explore the other workflow. What if we wanted to kind of stay in this 128 kind of a clay mode workflow, right? And just see if we can have fun this way as well. All right, so let's say this is gonna be his head. I'm gonna jump out of the perspective view, go to the front. I'm watching my gizmo here. And if I wanted to start sculpting this, I'm gonna go to move, make my brush super large. I'm gonna press X to activate my active symmetry. And from the front, right, let's talk about this. So this is gonna be his main head, right? And initially, what I'd like to do is just pull his cheeks out. So this is going to be, he's got these nice chubby cheeks. All right, maybe this is going to be the top of the head. If I wanted to do the top of the head, I could of course grab another sphere and insert it, or we can just play and see if we can literally just sculpt it. The old, I guess it's old school, right? Just sculpt it using this 128 here. And it's a lot of times it's just fun to go into this sculpting workflow instead of doing everything as blocking out, right? Just gives you a different exercise for your creative muscles. All right, so let's say I like this as far as like the main shape of the head. So I have this huge cheeks, right? I have the top of the head. Now if I wanted to create a couple antennas, I think the best way to do it is just use something like the snake hook. And of course we can turn on Sculptures Pro, right? And I can literally just simply pull out a couple of them, something like this. And we can decide how long we want it. Now, by the way, the size of your brush, right, is going to determine what happens here when you pull it out. So that's going to be important, right? If I want, for example, pull it out further, I do have to make maybe my brush a little bit larger. And now I have kind of these a little bit stronger antennas. Trying to figure out if I like where they are. Not really. I kind of want mine to be sort of in the middle of the head, or maybe even a little more back. I think that would be really cool. So something like this. I want these to be nice and strong, and it's more in the back of the character. All right, very cool. I think this is great. Maybe I want to add a little bit of a antenna feel right here. So let me do this. I'm going to control drag to redynamesh this, hold down the shift key, and I can smooth this out. Now as I'm smoothing out, you can see I'm still in the Sculptures Pro. Maybe let me jump out so I can kind of redynamesh this, and then holding down the shift key I can smooth this without kind of triangulating the entire thing, right? Cool. Let me grab my inflate. And I do want to maintain kind of the top of his head, so something like this, just a little blob of his, essentially a forehead, right? Maybe I can just kind of puff this up as well. This is going to be the back of his head, right? And I think this right here feels pretty good. Let me do control and drag to redynamesh. So let's review. We have the cheeks, we have the antennas kind of pushing back. We have the forehead part of our character, so it's going to be this right here, right? And we have the back of the skull or the head. So that feels pretty cool. Let's continue. I'm going to grab my inflate. Let me go ahead and press Alt because I'm an add, right? And maybe I want to create a couple eye sockets. So because he's a cartoony guy, I'm just going to do something like this, somewhat large eyes, right? And let's review and see if we like this. I think that's pretty well. There's really not going to be a lot of space between his eyes and the mouth. And I want the mouth to have this curve here. So the top lip is kind of coming down. all right? And then these lips, these corners of the mouth are going up, right? So it feels like he's screaming. I also think it would be really cool because we have these big cheeks, that the whole mouth is kind of tapering down. So it's not going to be straight. The bottom of the mouth needs to kind of go out like this, right? So it really feels like he is screaming, all right? And just like with the front up here, let's create this lip here, right? So again, it just feels like he's just yelling, all right? And if I want him to go inside the mouth, I can just move this around a little bit. Let's do control and drag to Dynamesh. And because he's a slug, we don't really have, you know, exact anatomy for what's happening here, but something like that. From the side view, this doesn't really feel nice, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the middle of the mouth and just kind of pull him back and create more of a curve here, right? So you have like the bottom of the face is going to be more forward. This is going to be back, so you have this curve here. And then the front, you could see how it feels pretty cool, where it's going to start going forward a little more, right? And it just needs to kind of feel good from all the angles. If I go into perspective view and start moving this around, definitely maybe smooth this a little more. I just want to make sure it kind of makes sense and it feels pretty good. Cool. All right. Now, if we wanted to really make sure that this part here has this strong lip going all the way around, what we could do is we could do this. We could press Control and simply just go around the mouth and just simply mask out this entire lip, right? Something like this. Now, what I could do is I can do Control and click to flip my mask and simply inflate this entire part. All right, let's do Control and drag to get rid of the masking. Control and drag again to Dynamesh. Let's do a little bit of a polish here, right here. And now it feels like maybe, you know, it feels like he has a stronger lip going all the way around. So there's like a little more definition, right, for his mouth. Cool. At this point, I can really review and see how everything is feeling. Let me jump out of the perspective view. And because he's going to be, you know, he's not Jabba the Hutt, but he's kind of like a larger guy, right? A larger snail. Maybe I can start thinking about how is this going to work with his body? So maybe the cheeks were just a little bit too large, right? And maybe you know, because he's going to be yelling, he's probably going to be maybe the eyes can come down a little more. He's a little more angry, right? I think it would be cool if all of this was in a little more. Let me define these antennas a little more, right? So something like that I think is pretty cool. And if I wanted to add some spheres at the end of the antenna, I can just simply inflate them and literally just do something like this. And I think that is absolutely perfect. Instead of adding a sphere and aligning it, we can just simply inflate the ends of these antennas, right? Control drag to Dynamesh, Shift to smooth this out. If I wanted to create a little more of a you know, more intense connection between this and this, what I could do is I can hold down the Shift key and just really start thinning this out. So I'm going to keep this thick because it's coming from this large head, but then it's going to be kind of funny if these were kind of thinned out and then it's going into this big blob right here. So just kind of cartoony proportions, right? It's just reading really fun and really well. I can even grab my move, and if I wanted to, I can just add a little bit of a movement here as well, right? So it feels a little more organic, right? You can move these around. So from every angle, it just has to feel playful and fun. Control drag to Dynamesh. Really want to make sure these spheres are nice and smooth. All right, now I have something like this. I think this is cool. Let's continue. I think this would maybe a good time to add some spheres for his eyes. Let me do that now. I'm going to insert, I'll just simply insert a sphere, drop one in, grab my move, and let's just simply scale it in and put it into position. I'm going to pull this forward, make this a little smaller, and this is going to be the eye, right? I would like to keep this round, and if I needed to change the shape of it, I would rather change the shape of the skin but keep this as a sphere. You know, especially if it's maybe a game character and we create like a pupil here, it's important to keep this round so you can actually rotate it and move it around and have the character look, you know, different directions without distorting the eye too much, right? So let's keep it like this. I think this is fine. I'm gonna go ahead and mirror it and do mirror and weld. Now I have 2. And I don't really need to, at this point, to even turn them into Dynamesh or anything like that. Let's just leave them as is, that's fine. I am gonna press Alt, and now let's grab something like clay buildup brush. I can switch it to alpha 01, for example, so it's a little softer, right? And maybe we wanna create some eyelids for this guy, right? Right now it doesn't feel like he has any way to close these eyes. There's no eyelid. So what I like to do is, using this clay buildup brush, I can start kind of sculpting in some of this extra volume that I can later use to close the eyes, right? And maybe same thing up here, just create something like this. And we can just literally just kind of drawing in 3D, super fun. Now, as you're doing this, a lot of times the clay buildup brush will start doing this really strange thing where, check this out, it's kind of pressing in or pulling in the geometry into one direction, creating these holes inside. So that's something you need to be mindful with when you're doing thin surface using clay built-up brush. And it's really easy to fix. To fix this, usually what I do is I'll just grab something like the inflate, and I'll just literally just inflate this back up, and then do Control drag to redynamesh, right? So that's one way of doing it. And if I go back to clay buildup, here it is. Jump out of the solo. I can continue playing and adding more more volume here. I feel like it would be better if there was even more skin for his eyes. Like this one tube here is not enough for me. I feel like I need more. So what I'm going to do is this. Check this out. I'm going to grab these eyes. I'm going to duplicate them, right? I'm going to take the top layer and let me literally just inflate them. So I'm going to inflate them like this. All right. And now what I can do is this. I'm going to grab my inflate, holding down the Alt key. Make sure my active symmetry is on. Holding down the Alt key, I can press in this right here. And the reason this is working is because I have 2 spheres on top of each other, right? So essentially doing something like this is going to give me this illusion of eyelids, and that is something I really like. I think this is great. I'm going to take this and I'm going to merge this down. All right, and now check this out. I have something like this. Now I know that at 128, if I redynamesh, it's going to lose that nice line. So before I do that, right, let me think about this. I guess it would be smart to go to 2. Let's go to 256 and see if that will help us to maintain this sharp connection. I'm going to do Control and drag, redynamesh, and I think that's a little bit better. I'm only at 330,000 points, and if I wanted to, I can smooth this out. But now I have these folds, these skin folds that are pretty cool. All right, nice. Let's go ahead and add more. To add more, what I would like to do is, let's think about the fact that maybe if he's going to be scrunched because he's yelling, maybe we want to add just a little more expressiveness to his forehead, right? Maybe we want to add just something right here, right? He's yelling, so maybe this is going to be a little scrunched up. Maybe we can add a little more volume here. Holding down the Alt key, I can press some of this in. So essentially just breaking up the surface and creating something that feels more like the whole top of the face of the head is a little more scrunched, right? Control drag to redynamesh, and take a look. I think it's just reading really nicely, right? So we have something up here. Let's continue. So my intention is to add a space helmet. So a lot of this stuff here is going to be blocked. So we don't really need to do too much detailing on this portion here, right? And I think for now, let's do this. Let's do inflate, and I would like to push this in a little more so I can add some of that mouth detail. So let's do that now. Let's just really push all of this in right here, so it feels like there's like a throat there down there, back there, right? I'm almost creating like these lines of, like, you could see they're like waves, right? Like so it feels like the inside of a slug's mouth, right? So it's not just flat, has these waves, and maybe we could do the same thing here. We'll just make this a little smaller and just create like these little lines, right? And I think that's pretty cool. Control drag to Dynamesh, hold on the shift key, smooth this out. Now I have this. If I wanted to move this up a little, I could do that too. I can maybe move this up, maybe distort this so it doesn't feel like, you know, a perfect circle, right? And we want to make sure we don't go through the mesh too much. All right, let's give him that little thing that hangs from the bottom of the throat. I'm not sure what it's called, but to do that, I think I can just simply use snake hook, right? And we can just pull something down. Right here, I think is good. And just like we did with these, let's do control to drag to Dynamesh, holding down the shift key. I can smooth or melt the, you know, the center, right? And I can bubble up that. I can go to inflate, and maybe I just want to kind of bubble this up a little, just to be kind of a humorous, right? A little bit funny. And we want it to be nice and strong, because if we are adding this detail on a cartoon character, it just has to be pronounced. So it's like, it's a little bit exaggerated. I think it's great. Let's give him some teeth. For the teeth, I think we should just give him something simple. Let's insert a cube, grab our move. And it's so fun to just play, right? Sometimes you guys, it's not always needs to be super technical. Sometimes you just want to have fun and play. Let's make these a little bit taller, and you know, I'm not even gonna add like gums or anything. I'm not sure it's necessary. I'm just gonna put it right behind the lip here, and let's just decide of how many teeth he needs, right? And you know, one thing you could say is that maybe instead of keeping them so sharp and perfectly as a perfect box, let's turn these into 256 Dynamesh as well, and let's just polish them a little bit. So essentially, we're just going to round them off a little bit, okay? And I think that's great. I can even go to the settings, go to taper, and we can taper these just a little bit, right? Something like that, just so it feels a little more cartoony. Okay, let's do accept. Check this out. This is what I have so far. I think it's fun. Let's continue. If you have anything that's super round and bubbly and maybe not even clean, don't yet worry about this yet, because we can clean this up. We can even clay polish it to add more sharpness. Right now we're just kind of, again, I guess we're still sort of doing a sculpting block out, sort of, right? We're not really dialing in anything perfect yet. So I'm still having a lot of kind of a low res stuff. At first I'm just trying to find the form of the character, the feel, before I get into kind of a cleanup phase, right? So let's press Alt. I'm gonna select this tooth here. And I think it would be cool if he had, obviously, this can be in the center, right? Because he's gonna have, let's give him a few teeth. So I'm gonna put this off center so I can clone it to the other side, right? Something like that is pretty good. And if I wanted to preview that, what that looks like, I could do mirror and weld and see. Yeah, I think this is great. Before I copy that though, let me undo that. I want to have 2, so essentially 4 total. I'm going to press Control, drag another one. I'm going to rotate this and make this a little bit smaller. And just put it right next to it. But I don't really want them touching, because if I Dynamesh, I don't really want them infusing together. So I am going to create a little bit of a space there. Keep it kind of clean, right? And that right here feels pretty good to me. Let me do Control and drag to get rid of the mask. And now if I do mirror and weld, now I have 4. And again, I'm just maintaining this little bit of a space there. If you wanted to, you know, you could technically inflate these like this, which actually maybe looks even better. If I go into my polyframe and do auto groups, right, now I can assign different groups to these. And even though they're touching, if I ever wanted to Dynamesh them, but I didn't want to infuse them together when you're doing Dynamesh, just simply turn groups on. And now if I do Control and drag to Dynamesh, check this out, I can Dynamesh these teeth without having them melt together, right? So that's a really cool trick. And it's useful if you want the geometry to be close together without becoming one, right? So groups are powerful in that situation. I feel like he needs a pupil right here. To add a pupil, I think we could just simply, let's just simply insert another sphere. And I'm just gonna literally scale this down. That's gonna be my pupil, right? I think the pupil is gonna be important immediately because that's gonna give us the feel of the character, right? All right, now I can use this eyeball, right? Or a pupil, I guess, to give him this feel of he's screaming and it's a little bit crossed eye, so it's a little bit closer to the center. And that's going to give him that kind of a cartoony, crazy feel, right? Maybe I can even move this up a little bit. So he's kind of angry. So let me see if I like this. I'm going to mirror it to the left to do mirror and weld. And now if I want to move them around, I can always grab my move. And let me do a couple things. Maybe let me use trim dynamic to kind of flatten maybe this here. And as I'm doing that, I definitely want to turn active symmetry on. Maybe I can just flatten this just a little bit, right? Like this. Grab my move. And now I can play around and maybe move this around a little bit. So this right here is kind of what I was envisioning, of him kind of being a little bit crossed-eye, a little bit up because he's yelling. And that is that's kind of the emotion I'm going for. I think that's cool. At this point, this is probably a great time to save. Make sure you save your subtool if you're doing this with me. All right, and I'm going to call mine Alien Slug Soldier. Could be a space soldier, but I think that's great. Very cool. Let's continue. At this point, let's talk about the fact that he needs more teeth on the bottom, right? And, you know, I'm trying to figure out if I just want to steal these on top or if we want to create some more manual ones on the bottom. Whenever you steal stuff, it's going to look like you did, right? Everyone could see that you just copied it. So maybe let's not be too lazy. Let's just simply insert another box. And it was so simple, right? We just simply scale the box and we can just put it into position. Maybe this teeth, you know, the ones in the bottom, maybe it could be a little bit smaller. And that's going to be cool. And just like with the ones on top, you know, before I taper them, I was going to taper it. But before I do, let me just make my job easier to just kind of duplicate them a bunch of times. So check this out. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put one right here. Maybe make it a little bit wider, right? So it's still smaller than this. But now take a look. If I jump out of the perspective view, I can hold on the control key, drag this just a little bit so I'm creating that space there. Release the control and just keep dragging, right? And I can decide how many teeth I want. So something like this I think is great. I'm going to do control and drag to get rid of the mask. Put these in the center, right? So I'm somewhat in the center. I think this is great. Now what I could do is this. I can change the pivot, go to the settings. Now I can taper them, right? All at once. So I could do that. We can just decide, you know, what do we like? So maybe something, I don't know, something like that feels pretty cartoony to me. I like this. I'm going to go to accept. And now I definitely want to bend them as well, right? So let me go back here, go to do a bend curve. With the orange cone, let me make another dot right there in the middle. And now I can pull this forward. And if I wanted to, I can pull this back. Now, if I'm pulling this back, I would like this to be pulled as well. So these essentially need to be symmetrical. How do I make sure that if I pull this, this one pulls, right? Let's go to this green one, which is symmetry. 0 is no, and I'm gonna pull on this green one, and I'm gonna set it to yes. All right, so now if I drag this dot here, it should do both of them, right? And maybe that's what I want. Maybe I can pull this one down, this one can come up. So essentially it's kind of doing both. It's bending this way, and it's also bending up and down as well. All right, I like this. I can distort it even more using my move brush. So let me go to the settings, do accept. Let's go to our move, and now we can distort this a little even more, right? So it doesn't feel too perfect and too symmetrical. I can just move these around a little more. Just kind of mess them up, you know. Something like that I think is cool. Maybe pull this one down. Maybe I can even go as far as take my move topology and individually kind of change these around a little bit, right? So it feels a little more unique. I can even do that here too. Press Alt. You can see how they just look so symmetrical to me, right? I don't want that. So let me just kind of mess them. Maybe this one is a little longer, right? And look how just a little tiny detail breaking the symmetry just feels so much more fun, in my opinion, right? I think this is great right here. And now we want to probably also add a tongue. How would you add a tongue? Well, it could be as simple as just simply inserting a sphere, grabbing our move. And usually when I create a tongue, it's as easy as just squishing it this way. Let's move this up a little so we could see. And then just changing the width of it, right? And pretty much that's looks like a tongue to me. Maybe I can squish it a little more this way. And now what I like to do is I like to grab my inflate, press X, activate symmetry, make our brush a little bit larger. I'm going to add, I'm only on 10 intensity, so this is great. And I can just kind of puff this up, right? Give me some kind of an alien tongue here. So that should be fine. Control, you know, I'm just going to do a polish. I'm not even in Dynamesh yet. I'll do a lot of polish. Holding down the shift key, I can smooth this as well, of course. I'm trying to figure out if I don't like this little pole that I'm seeing right there. So let me actually change this into Dynamesh. That's fine. Now I can really smooth this like crazy. All right. And now if I wanted to make this into a cartoon tongue, this doesn't, from the top view, right? If I solo this, this doesn't seem very interesting at all. So we can always grab our move and we can just change it into something a lot more interesting. For example, we can create a little bit of a bend, right? We can do that. And now we have a few things going on. We have a little taper and we have a little bit of a bend. So this is a little more interesting, right? Very cool. Let's go into jump out of the solo and now let's put this into place. So here's an interesting point. I'm going to scale this. If you wanted to turn this into a game character at this point, and if you want to rig them too, you definitely want to leave the tongue like this, right? Because you want to keep it straight. So you can add joints and you can do, you know, Z-remesher and all of that, right? So for that reason, by the way, if your active symmetry is on and you start moving this around, you'll always end up distorting this, obviously, because active symmetry is on. Keep that in mind, that's important. But if you're just simply playing around and just creating a fun character, it doesn't, then we can of course make it more expressive. It's going to be way too boring to leave it on the middle. So again, it depends what is this for when you're modeling. So keep that in mind, that's really important. In my case, I think it'd be more fun if I jump out of the symmetry, go in the side view, let me solo this, let me unlock this, put my pivot right here at the end, lock this back up, jump out of the solo, and now if I wanted to, I can just make this a little more fun and expressive and maybe put it on the side, right? So maybe it's more like this, and you know, maybe I kind of like this right here. I think this is great. I'm going to grab my move, and to make it fit a little bit better, of course, I can just manually sculpt it, right? Maybe he's, as he's posing, right, his tongue is kind of sticking out, and I think that's really, really funny. Maybe I can pull that down and do something like that. All right. So again, you have to ask yourself, what is this for? And if I wanted to add a little more definition to the tongue, I can always go to Damien Standard with the sub. I can turn my lazy mouse on. And if I wanted to add that another line there, way too much intensity, I can easily just add another line like this, right? I could do control drag to redynamesh, and my tongue is kind of losing its resolution. I am going to go to 256, control drag, and there you go. If we wanted to, we can also go to standard brush, choose something like drag dot, right? And if I do this alpha 14, for example, or you know what, let's do like this alpha 23. This is a great alpha for to create tongues. So now what we could do is I'm in add. My intensity is going to be 20, and I can just create these we can create these dots on his tongue very easily, right? Let's jump out of the lazy mouse, and very quickly we can just kind of put these all over his tongue so it feels like he's a slug and his tongue has like these bumps. All right, control drag to Dynamesh. Check this out. Very quickly we created something super fun, and I love it. Let's continue. I think next, let's go ahead and give him a body, right? So some kind of a large body. So for that, let's just simply insert another sphere, and let's use this sphere to give him the body, right? So I'm going to jump out of the perspective view, and let's talk about this. So for the body, what I would like to do is I want to definitely make it much larger, right? So he's kind of a heavy set guy, and I'm going to make sure he doesn't really have a neck. It's more like I almost want to create, let me think about this. I almost want to put this here. I want to give him a bunch of rolls to connect his head with the body. So what would be the best way to do this? If I wanted to give him some rolls for his skin, right? All right, let's do something like this. And now let's create a bunch of rolls for, like neck rolls for his body. So a couple things. I'm going to duplicate this body. So now I have two. I'm going to go to, let's go to this bottom one. And let me actually hide the top one for now. All right, I'm going to go to the bottom one. And then let's do this. Let's go to deformation. We'll go to gravity. Mine is set to Y. I'm just going to pull the gravity down. So that's going to be, the body is going to be more like this. All right. Now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go to the top one and unhide that. I'm going to go to the top one, and this right here is going to be my roll. So essentially what I would like to do is I'm going to squish it down like this, scale it down, and I can even inflate this a little more. But essentially, let's just start creating something that feels like there's a bunch of rolls. So we'll do something like this at first. Okay, maybe we can even rotate and just kind of make sure it matches the flow of the head to the body, right? So if something like this, hold on the control key, drag another one, maybe make this one a little bit larger. All right, and I'll do one more. Control, drag another one, make this one a little bit larger. And now what I want to do is I want to turn these into something that kind of feels more like skin. So I'm going to do control and drag to get rid of the masking, right? And now let's go back to the body, grab our move brush, make it super large, and we'll just custom make sure active symmetry is on. We're going to custom adjust it to fit better into this roll up here, right? So just kind of move this around so it feels like it's fitting and working well with this bottom ring here. So I'll do something like this. This is going to be the bottom of the body, right? The bottom part. And this right here is feeling pretty good. I'm going to press Alt. All right, let's select these top rings up here, and still using our move brush, we definitely want to pull this around, right? So I want to create like a little bit of a dip here, right? Oops, make sure before I do anything, my active symmetry is on. I want to pull this up, pull this down, and I know it's going through, that's okay. But I just want to create a little bit of a flow here, right? Just a little bit of a movement. I'm going to do the same thing here. Just do something like this. Now I can inflate this a little more. It's kind of going back and forth until it makes sense. I'm going to press Alt, select this here, and maybe I can pull this in. I want to make sure it doesn't go through these fat rolls. So something like that is great. Now I would like to turn all of this, everything, into one mesh, so I can kind of smooth this and turn it into more of a skin looking thing, right? So to do that, I'm going to grab this top one, merge it down into the bottom. Let's turn this into 256 as well, 256 Dynamesh, just like we did with the head. I'm going to take this body and move it all the way up, take the head and merge it down. All right, now everything is on one, right? Everything, if I solo this, you could see everything is one, and I'm in 256 Dynamesh. So now technically, if I do control and drag, it's going to infuse everything together, right? Which also means if I hold down the shift key, I can start smoothing this out and kind of melting all of this and kind of start creating something a little more custom, something that feels like it's just one mesh instead of a bunch of them, right? So that is going to be great. Let's go ahead and smooth all this. Smooth all this. And take this, take a look. It just feels like all of this is kind of bunched up, and it's going to go into this body here, right? If I wanted to, I can even, I love this brush right here, CG cloth. And if you download my UI, you will see this brush as well. But essentially, this is great to create rolls. And you can use anything. You can use clay buildup or even standard brush. But I think this is great for skin. And essentially what I could do is I can create even more kind of rolls running around. Kind of break this up a little, right? Like this. So it just feels kind of fun. I'm going to come here. Let me just create kind of like this back muscle this way. Maybe something like this down here. Right? Maybe something like this on the side. And just essentially just breaking that sphere feel, right? Control drag to Dynamesh, hold on the shift key, smooth everything together. Now we have something like this. Crazy looking slug. Awesome, let's continue. You can say I actually messed up a little bit because it's going through his mouth. But that's okay because I can simply hold on the shift key and smooth that whole portion up there. Or down there, I guess, right? So that's not a problem. All right, let's review the body and see how it's feeling. If I go to move, make my brush really large. Maybe we can take all of this here, just make it even larger. I'm gonna make this a little bit larger so it feels like it's supporting the head nicely, and it feels a little more like a drop or a pear, right? So it kind of works really nicely together. And I think that is gonna be great. Let's go ahead and do the same thing here, just kind of move this around. I definitely want to make sure he has like this kind of a Jabba the Hutt belly, right? I want to make sure this is right here. It's kind of nice and round. So he has that. Definitely needs a belly button. To create the belly button, I can just go to my standard brush. I'll do drag, that's fine. Do alpha 14. And we could just simply, you know, let's do maybe pull this in, or I mean press this in. I'll do something like this. I'm going to press 1 a few times until this really goes in there. And if I wanted to, like I was telling you before, I'm going to grab for my skin, let me use this CG cloth. And if I wanted to, I just can create a little bit of a, you know, something like that, right? Like a top and the bottom portion of the belly button. Control drag to Dynamesh, holding down the shift key. Maybe I can also make sure that it doesn't feel like it's so round. I can smush this a little more so it feels very alien, you know, alien belly button kind of feel. I'm not sure if he needs nipples or anything, but if we wanted to, we can go to standard brush, do a add, do the same thing. We can give him a couple nipples, press 1 a few times, and you know, with this kind of stuff, the less is more, right? It doesn't need to be anything more than even this. Maybe I can pull this out just a little more to be kind of funny. And I think that works, right? I'm just kind of distorting this a little more so it feels like maybe some of the skin is kind of sagging down, right? So it feels like maybe he has like you know, nipples in the belly, right? And you know, I don't really mind the fact that some of this is a little wobbly because I want that kind of skin kind of feel. So this is fine. Let's go ahead and do more. If he's a slug, he probably needs a tail. So I'm going to jump out of the perspective view, grab my move, and let me just turn AccuCurve on, make my brush super large. I'm going to take this here and just kind of pull this back. All right, so something like that is going to be great. If I wanted to, I can even make this a little bit maybe pointier. Let me jump on the AccuCurve, and you know, maybe I can squish all this here. Let's do, let's pull this back down, and I want to make sure it feels, you know, like he has some anatomy, right? So he has like these back shoulders, and then right here he's got this feels a little way too smooth, so I'm gonna go into my CG cloth, make my brush look really large, just kind of run, do something like this, just run across a few times, and you can see right away it's just so much more interesting, right? Just even doing this is all is all I really need to kind of read this really well. So with the paint and the rendering, I think this was going to look really, really cool. Let's go to perspective view and check it out and see what we got. Just kind of having fun creating this crazy fat slug guy. I think it would be really, really cool if he also was holding, let me pull this down even more. Just want to make sure this, all of this stays kind of nice and round. If I wanted to add more rolls down here, I'm trying to figure out if he needs it or not, but maybe this right here could just be a little more flat, because if he's sitting on the ground and he's so heavy, right? Most likely, if he's so heavy, he's going to be pressing in on the ground. So maybe all of this could be a little bit sharper. All right, I can even grab my move, jump out of the perspective view, and if I wanted to, I can hold on the control key and just pull this up and kind of flatten the bottom, right? You could see how it's flattening. Maybe something like this is good, right? So I just kind of flatten the entire bottom. Control drag to Dynamesh, holding down the shift key, I can smooth this because he has so much weight, so he's going to be pressing on all of this. I don't really care about the bottom of the character. So this right here just feels nice, right? It's flat, it's heavy, and because there's so much weight, we can even, you know, maybe point this, bring this down even more. All right. And I like this idea of this being sharp, and maybe it's going to come out in a couple places. So something like this. So it feels a little more like a slug. All right. Check this out. I think that's pretty cool. Very nice. Let's talk about what else he needs. He definitely needs arms, and let's give him maybe a weapon, right? I think that would be fun. So if I wanted to give him arms, I probably wouldn't know exactly where to put the arms unless I put him in T-pose, right? But if he's holding a weapon, let's maybe let's create the weapon first, and then we'll kind of position the weapon, you know, with the arms, right? So let's do that now. Would be a cool way to quickly create kind of a sci-fi looking weapon. I think what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to insert a shape. I'm going to turn this shape into, let's use zModeler for this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and bring this way down so it's in the bottom, away from everything else. We can even put this in the folder if we wanted to, but I think it's fine. I'm going to use this, and let's do a Q sphere, right? And initially, let's switch it to something something super simple. 4 by 4 by 4 Q sphere. If I hide all of these, let me turn. You know, I can of course hold on the shift key and turn everything off. But essentially, what I want to do is I want to take make this a little bit larger. I want to take this sphere right here, this Q sphere, and let's turn it into a sci-fi weapon. If we wanted to make our job easier, there's actually a few pieces in ZBrush that you can use as a starting point. So for example, if I wanted to create a handle for the weapon, I could technically go into, let me duplicate this. I'm going to go into my brushes, and to find the weapon, check this out. I have something called IMM gun. If I click on that, all right, and in here I have a few things that I could use as a starting point. So for example, I have this handle, and I could use this handle to start creating something that could work as a, you know, as a sci-fi weapon handle. We can even use these different pieces that they give us, of course, as well. And you have so many different ones. I do like this handle 3. I think this is great. All right, if I want to see what that looks like, check this out. This is the handle, right? And I think this will work actually pretty perfect for what we need. I'm going to jump out of the perspective view. Let me, I'll jump out of the solo. Let me take this sphere, and let's put it right here. All right. And let's start playing around with this. Now, if I go to the top view, you can see my handle is actually not aligned with the center of the world, right? It's kind of in the wrong position. So if you ever have this situation where something is off center, you can always go to geometry. You can go to position and take a look. I have something called, if you look at the character's head right here, I can see that this is going to be my Z, right? The blue handle is going to be Z position. So if I click on this and press 0 and press enter, it should snap my mesh to the center, right? And that's really important because if I'm building something using zModeler, or if I'm combining multiple shapes, I definitely want to be in the center. So this position trick is really, really cool. All right, let's go to this view and let's turn our polyframe on. And if I wanted to, we can use zModeler to sculpt this further, right? So let me do a quick save. So let me also actually for now hide this sphere. And let's talk about this here. To make this into more of a sci-fi weapon looking thing, let's just simply do a few things, right? Maybe I want to I'm going to press Alt, select these faces here, and maybe I want to turn this, maybe I want to extend this out. So to extend this out, I can hover over the polygon, go to Extrude, Single Poly, we can easily pull this out. If I want to adjust the handle size, I can go to, let's see, I can go to Move Infinite, and we can move this around, right? Maybe, you know, if the slug is going to hold the weapon, maybe we want to make it kind of fun and cartoony, so I'm just going to run this off. I'm using Move Infinite because then it's doing, it's like using Move with symmetry. So Move Infinite will grab all the points within the radius of the brush. See? So it's nice and symmetrical. So that's a cool trick as well, right? So let's go ahead and do that. All right, if I wanted to, maybe I can pull this down. I'm going to do something like just distort this a little more so it feels a little more fun and interesting. I want to keep all of this somewhat flat up here so we can maybe add a scope. If I want to add like a scope up here for like a sci-fi weapon, how would I do that? Well, I can go back into my IMM gun here. Let's choose a scope we like. So maybe like this A10, for example. I'm going to go to the top view. And what I could do is I can just start dragging this, hold on the Shift key, and snap the rotation. So it's going to give me something like this. I'm going to grab my move. Let me scale this, maybe make it a little bit longer. Definitely align it a little bit better with the weapon. Let's say like something along these lines for, I don't know, maybe there's like a little scope on top of his weapon, right? His sci-fi weapon. If I do Control and drag and get rid of the mask, I can see what I got. Let me actually mask this here once again, and it does feel like needs to be a little more round. All right, excellent. Now we just have the scope kind of floating on top. Let's connect it somehow to the base. So I'm going to duplicate this shape. And let me go into Q cube. Let me just do something super simple. I'll do 1 by 1 by 1. Click on Q cube. Grab my move. Let me change my pivot. And what we can do is we can just put this right here. All right, that's going to be our little connector. I can make it a little bit skinnier. And I think that's cool. All right, let's jump out of the symmetry. And now if I change my pivot, I just want to make sure I'm in the center of that box. I can go into the taper. And if we wanted to, we can maybe taper the bottom and taper the top. Just create kind of a fun connection to the base. All right, let's go to accept, take a look. Now we have this. If we wanted to, we can also, of course, select this. And maybe we can use zModeler to, let's do this. Let's press X to get out of the active symmetry. Hover over this polygon here, press spacebar, polygon actions, extrude, poly loop. Let's just take this entire loop right here and just kind of add a little bit of a thickness. And I think this loop right here connected to this shape is going to feel really, really cool. Let me jump out of the polyframe. Check this out. It just kind of looks like a cool scope connection to the base of our weapon, right? Just giving us this sci-fi weapon feel. Let's go to perspective view and see if we like everything. I think it's looking really nice. I'm going to save it. I like everything. It does feel like maybe this and this is just a little too symmetrical for me. I can turn my polyframe on, and one thing I could do is I can maybe change the size of these here, right? Let's jump out of the perspective view. If you wanted to kind of distort this a little more, it's really easy to do. We can hold on the Control key. Let's just make a selection of all of these faces. Press Control and click to flip it, grab our move, change our pivot so it's in the center, right? And technically, why not? We could just change the size of this, and maybe we can make it a little bit larger, right? We can come here, grab all of these, And I'm just kind of playing, but we can take all of this here and just kind of scale it in, maybe even pull it out, and just create something that just doesn't feel exactly, the same. I think that just adding those little touch-ups, I think, makes a world of difference when you're modeling. So it doesn't feel like you're always copy-pasting stuff, right? I think this is cool. Let's continue just a little more. Let's just add like the front of the weapon and maybe add a little side detail here as well. Let's see, what can we do on the side here? I think we can just simply insert something. Let's go to our IMM brushes and press I. Let's go back to our weapon, why not? I can press M to see what's available. And maybe for the side of the weapon, we can just do something as simple as... All right, so I kind of like this B12. I think this is kind of cool. I'm going to select that. And maybe I can just simply drag it on the side of my my weapon. So I'll do something like that. Let's check it out. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Control and drag to Dynamesh, jump out of the polyframe. Let's take a look very quickly. It just adds something seemingly interesting, right? As far as like a sci-fi weapon goes. If I wanted to move this around, I could still do that too. I can do auto groups. So now it's going to split into two. And if I wanted to, I can do Control Shift and click twice. Do Control and mask this. Control Shift and click to bring it back. Control click to flip my mask. Grab my move. I'm just playing around at this point, just so I'm showing you that you have full freedom. You can still rotate it, scale it, do whatever you want. And you can always isolate objects really fast if you needed to using polygroups. All right, Control drag to get rid of the mask. And let's just review and see what we got so far. This is what I have for my kind of a sci-fi block out. Really cool. Definitely needs a trigger for the weapon. And let's see, what else can we do? Maybe we can add something to the back here. This feels kind of boring to me right here. It needs something. Let's press M. See if we can add something to the back. I'm thinking something round, so I'm thinking maybe even this F4 or this E13. Let me grab this E13, see if I like it. I'm going to come here to the center, just drag something like that. All right, grab my move. Let me just scale this in maybe. And this is what I was visualizing, just something that feels like it's on the back of the weapon. I like it. I just definitely want to make sure it's connected to the back here. And let's see if we need to do anything else. I think something like that is pretty cool. If I wanted to, I can also go here, go to do a taper, and maybe I can taper this down so it kind of connects to the back nicely, right? Just kind of customizing it. And let's say I'm going to do accept, check this out, Control and drag to get rid of the mask. And now just adding just a little bit of a detail in the back, I think just makes it even more fun. All right, the only thing I'm concerned about is if I put his hand right here, I want to make sure this is not on the way. So maybe I need to move this, right? If I wanted to move it, keep in mind we can use move topology, make our brush really small to size 1. And now check this out, it's a cool little secret trick. If your size brush is 1, you can move individual shapes all at once, right? And I can maybe put it a little bit higher. And maybe that's going to be better if his hand is right here. All right, excellent. Let's go ahead and do more. So if I wanted to create like a little bit of a trigger area, of course, I can go back into my IMM brushes. Let's press I, go back to the weapon. Let's see if they, do they give us like a little trigger we could steal? I guess that's what this is, right? Right here, B20. I'm not sure I like it. You know, I almost feel like the trigger should probably be added after the hand is placed, so it's kind of custom. Right now, if I put a trigger in, then I'm going to have to make sure my hand works with the trigger. I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to put the hand in first, and then if I wanted to, I can add the trigger. I think that makes more sense to me. Let me unhide the front, and let's do something up here in the front of the weapon, right? Let's select this, grab our move, and put this right here. I can just, let's see, I can hold on Control key. I can flatten this whole shape right here. Maybe move it a little bit closer in. Maybe I can also expand it out. right? Something like that I think is cool. And you know, by the way, if I want to flatten something super specific like this, maybe this needs to be down. It's not interfering with my scope too much. But if I wanted to flatten this even more, how would I do that? Well, I can just simply press Control, switch it to mask rectangular. I can select just these points back here, Control and click to flip it, and now take a look. I can unlock this, put it right here, lock this, and now I can literally just take these points and flatten them. And that's a really cool trick because it's going to allow you to flatten something at any point. So masking is really powerful. Keep that in mind. Control and click to drag. And now I have this. Let's do more. Let's connect this blob to this shape. So to do that, I'm going to come here, turn my polyframe on. Let me see what's going on here. Let me solo this, for example, for a minute and go to ZModeler. I'm going to press Alt. Let me select all of these inside polygons, right? And now if I wanted to pull them out, I can go to Extrude, Single Poly. I can literally just pull them out, jump out of the solo so I could see what I'm doing. And as I'm pulling it out, obviously it doesn't look nice. So maybe we can also do, let's do Scale, Polygroup All. We can scale these green ones in. But as I'm scaling it, you can see it's also going inside. I don't want that. So I'm going to do Polygon Center and just do like a scale like this. It feels like I need to do more. I'm going to grab my move, pull this out a little more. Let me solo this, go back to ZModeler. Let me just continue pulling these in more and more. Jump out of the solo. All right, there you go. Now it feels like it's fitting a little bit nicer. All right, I'm just kind of playing again. Jump out of the polyframe, take a look. This is what I have. All right, let's keep playing. So next, I would like to, let's do this. I'm going to press Control. I want to, you see this jaggedy line right here? I want to do something with it, but I want to straighten it out. So I'm going to press Control. I'm going to select all of these points here. Control click to flip my mask, grab my move, unlock it like we've been doing. I'm going to put it right in the center of this line, lock this back up, and now I can just scale this in and straighten that line. All right, and I can even scale it. The reason I'm doing this is because I think it would be cool if we added some additional detail to this shape. Control click to get rid of the mask. Let me turn my polyframe on. Let's do auto groups. And we can do it again if we want to change the color. But I was thinking of adding some fun detail in here. And that's why I wanted to straighten this line. So a couple things I could do. I can go to ZModeler. Let me hover over this edge. Let me do a delete, edge loop complete. I'm just going to delete this one, clean this up. And now what I can do is this. I can come here, go to Insert, Multiple Edge Loops. I'm going to click on this edge and drag, and take a look what I'm doing. I'm creating these loops, even loops going all the way around. And maybe I can take some of these and push them in. So to do that, I can press, I'm going to make sure my active symmetry is on Z, right? Because our guy is facing this way. Holding on the Alt key, I can select all of these polygons here. Something like that. Maybe even select these here too. Like that. And now what I can do is this. I can come here, go to Extrude, Single Poly, and I can just push these in. And essentially, just doing it for the bottom part of the weapon, I think is going to create like a really cool sci-fi feel for this weapon. I kind of like this. I think this is cool. Just kind of inventing a sci-fi gun. Let's add the front, and then we'll be done, right? Let's go ahead and do that. If I want to straighten this, keep in mind I keep saying it, but I can just simply use masking, right? I can do Control. Select these, Control click and to flip it, grab my move, unlock my pivot, put it right here, lock this back up, and just simply scale this in to kind of create like a flat surface, right? And now because I did that, I can create the barrel at the end, right? Let's go ahead and do that now. So for the barrel, I think all I need to do is just add some kind of a cylinder. Let me jump out of the perspective view. I'm going to duplicate this shape, go to Q cylinder. I'm going to leave it on 4x4x4. I'm going to jump out of the active symmetry, and just create a Q cylinder on Y. All right, grab my move. Let me change my pivot, and holding down the shift key, I can rotate this 90 degrees and just simply put it into position. All right, let's just maybe scale this up a little more. And this is going to be the end, the barrel part of the weapon. If I wanted to, I can also go to the settings, go to taper. We can taper this here. We can use this white cone as well to our advantage. Maybe I like something like this is a cool looking shape. I can take this and pull this in. All right, I'm going to get something like this. I think this is really cool. I'm going to go to the settings and do accept. Let's turn our polyframe on, do auto groups. And let's do a little more. Go to zModeler, hold on the Alt key, select all of these faces here. Press Alt if I want to deselect something. But essentially, I want to go to Extrude Single Poly and just create a little bit of a thickness here, right? So I have something like that. I think that is great. Let's review and see if we like it. I think it's honestly exactly what I was thinking of, right? I think our little sci-fi weapon is complete. You can, of course, add more and more detail if you want, but I think I'm going to stop here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine all of these pieces into one. So starting from this guy, I'm going to go to merge and just merge down all of this. So now it's just one, right? You can even do auto groups, so everything is nice and separate. Let's go ahead and hold on the shift key and bring back our character. All right. I'm going to grab my weapon and I'm going to simply position it right in front and make it a little bit smaller. All right, so it feels like he's going to be holding this in some fun way. So let's put it right here. It's going to be a little soldier. Maybe we can even, I don't know, rotate it. We can change the pivot. And if I wanted, I can even manually put the pivot where I want it. You know, doesn't really matter, but we could do something like if he's holding it, it would kind of feel fun if it was more kind of like this, right? So it's not perfectly straight. And I think this is probably about the right size. Nice. So that is going to allow me to, I can even move this way. Now it's going to allow me, because I have the weapon in place, to figure out where do the arms go, how does he hold this, and all of that, right? So let's take a look and see how it's feeling. I think it's feeling really cool. All right, also I can of course press Ctrl D to subdivide this a couple times. I like how it looks subdivided, but for some reason it's breaking the this part here, which I don't like. So let me do this. Let me do Ctrl Shift and click on these to hide them. Let's see. Now since I hid them, I can go to Subtools. Let me do Split Hidden. I'm going to put that on its separate layer. It's not, for some reason, it's not subdividing the way I like it. All right, now since I separated, let me jump onto the symmetry. Let me change my pivot. It does feel like they're maybe floating a little bit too far from the weapon. Maybe I can pull them in just a little more. I think that's probably a little bit better. I can select the weapon. Let me go to geometry. Let's do uncrease all to kind of reset everything. I'm going to switch my tolerance to 30 and do a crease. And now if I do a dynamic, it's going to hold some of these sharp edges that maybe I like, right, for my weapon. So you can decide what you like, but something like that is, I think right here just feels a little bit better. You can of course change the smoothness to even more. And that I think looks really, really nice here. Maybe some of this could be cleaned up a little more. I don't really like this here, honestly. Let me figure out why that is. If I turn my polyframe on, oh, I could see these are creased because of the 30-degree angle. If I want to remove the creasing manually, you can go to zModeler, hover over an edge, go to crease, and just simply press Alt to clear out the creasing. Right, so maybe I don't want to crease any of these here. So you can manually, we could solo this. You can manually remove any creasing that you don't like at any point. So you have full control over that. Just holding down the Alt key, I can clean up all of this here. I don't think this front should be creased, honestly, at all, right? So I think that's going to be better. Let me jump onto the solo. Turn the dynamic back on, and you see how this is now nice and round. So again, full control, right? Whatever you like. But I think that looks a little bit better. And I can even decide if I want to clean that up. But anyway, so this is the weapon. I think this is great. Let's go ahead and continue. I'm going to save it. And now let's just add some arms to this guy. I'm going to press Alt, select this. We can do a quick BPR if you want to see what that looks like. All right, excellent. So now the weapon is in. The next thing we should do is let's work on the hands. Now, before I work on the hands, there's a few things I would like to touch up. And they are, now since I'm looking at the character's silhouette, I think it would be really cool if this was maybe a little more round. I feel like maybe these cheeks are just a little too puffy for some reason. And as far as the expression goes, I'm still not happy with the eyes, right? This doesn't feel very expressive to me. So maybe I really want to make sure he feels a little more angry, right? So I'm gonna maybe, let me do something like this, right? So he's a little more scrunched. Yeah, there you go. I think that's a little bit better. Now, I have a question for you guys. So if you wanted to create hands and arms for this character, holding this weapon in place, what would be the best way to do this? Would you insert a cylinder and try to align everything? Or is there a better way? What I suggest we do is something unusual. Let's try to use ZSpheres to create the arms for this guy. So how does that work? Let's take a look. So what we could do is we can insert a Z-sphere. That's just going to drop one right there. All right, I'm going to jump out of the perspective view. I can grab my move. And essentially, if I wanted to move this around, I could go to deformation and I can use the offset, right? So if I do use the offset, check this out. I can offset it on X. I can offset it on Y, right? I can, let me click on Y. Maybe I want to lower it down. And essentially what I can do is I can place it where the shoulder is. So let me put it somewhere right here. Let's do X a little more. Maybe somewhere right here is going to be the shoulder, right? And from this shoulder, let's say I want to create the rest of it, right? So what I'm going to do now is this. I'm going to go to Draw, and I'm going to create another Z-sphere right here. And if I wanted to, I can go to Move. If I change my draw size, I can make sure that I'm only affecting this one here, and I can just pull it towards the weapon, right? So now I have the shoulder, I have the elbow. Very cool. Maybe the elbow should be like here. I'm going to go back to draw, and let me create the forearm. It's going to be this. Grab my move, and I'm just going to pull this towards the weapon. All right, so now I have this right here. If I wanted to give him maybe 3 fingers, that would be really easy to do, right? So let's just draw 3 different spheres, and then we can turn these into, you know, something like an alien finger, right? So I'll do 1. All right, if I wanted to, I can move these around, maybe make them just a little bit longer. And of course, just make sure they're kind of working with the weapon, so it's kind of hugging the weapon, right? So something like that is, I think, is good. All right, and check this out. It feels like he's holding the weapon. Maybe I can continue adjusting it, right? Maybe I can make these even longer. Now, here's an interesting point. If you make this really long, you can actually add additional Z-spheres to create a bend. So maybe this finger needs to bend. I can go to Draw, and I can just simply click on in between these, right? So something like this. Go back to Move, and now check this out. I can move these and create a bend in my fingers, which is really cool. And that could probably be the best way to create something that feels like he's holding the weapon, right? All right, let's take a look. I feel like maybe this one is just a little bit too crazy, and we can continue adjusting it. But let's say I like this here. Maybe this arm should be in a little more, and you can adjust it as you like. Let's say I like this right here. All right, now we have something like this. Now, how do I take this arm and create the second one? Well, what I could do is I can go to Duplicate, and of course I can just simply do a flip object, right? I can put it on this side, and now what I need to do is just simply make sure that it feels like he's holding the handle, right? So I'm going to go ahead and make my brush a little bit smaller. And by the way, if you make this larger, anything that this brush is grabbing in the radius of the brush is going to be moved all at once. So for example, if I go to move and try to move this, you can see how it's moving the entire hand because all 3 fingers are inside the radius of this brush, which is really interesting, right? So now technically I can put it into position, and now one by one I can move these around and you know, make sure that it's actually working with the handle. Let me start maybe from this bottom finger first. And by the way, if you're seeing this kind of thing where it's kind of going inside itself, all you need to do is just move them around to make sure that they're not intersecting in a strange way. And usually that will fix any issues. All right, now I have something like this. It definitely feels like he is holding the weapon. All right, once you finish with your ZSpheres, the next thing that needs to happen is that we have to convert this to the actual mesh. If you press A, it's going to give you a preview of what that would look like. To make that happen, you need to go to Adaptive Skin. And in here, we have something called density, so we can control that. I'm going to leave mine on 3. If I click on preview, that's the preview, right? And if I want to make this into sculptable mesh, I have to click on make adaptive skin. All right. Once I've done that, you can see a new subtool was created. And if I select it, this is going to be the actual mesh, right? And that is awesome. I'm going to go back to here, go to subtools, and let me go ahead and hide this one. Select my other one and do exactly the same thing. I'm going to go back to adaptive skin, and I'm going to turn this into also density of 3, and we can do a little preview and then do click on make, and let's click on make adaptive skin. All right, very cool. Next, I'm going to go back to subtool. Let me hide this one as well, and I'm going to insert both of them, right? So we'll do the first one. That's going to be this one. And then we'll insert the skin ZSphere 2. That's going to be that one. All right. So now we no longer need ZSpheres. So if you wanted to, you can just delete these, or you can also move them down if you want to use them for anything else for later. But in my case, let me just move them down before I delete them. I'm going to grab this one. And now the next step is going to be taking the mesh and combining it with the actual body, right? So let's do this now. And before we do, we could, of course, turn this into something a little bit cleaner, right? So maybe to clean this up, if I wanted to, I could do Control and drag to Dynamesh and just, of course, do a polish. Holding down the Shift key, I can also make sure that I don't have any low resolution kind of facety stuff, right? So we could do that. Press Alt, select this one. Let's do the same thing. I'm just going to re-Dynamesh it, do a quick polish, holding down the Shift key. I can make sure that this looks nice as well. All right, very cool. Now, if I wanted to, I can decide if I'm happy with these or if I need to do anything. Let's do this. Let's go to Move Brush and let's kind of push this in a little more and create something a little more custom as far as the shoulder goes, right? I can just kind of make this work with this mesh, kind of pull it in a little more, maybe distort this a little more as well. And essentially something like this I think is perfect. All right, let me do the same thing with this one. I'm going to click on it, just kind of make sure it's integrated into the side the way I like it. So I'm going to do something like this. All right, let's say I like this. This is great. Next, I'm going to take the mesh of the body, and of course, I'm going to merge it down. Right, I'm going to merge it down with both arms, and let's go ahead and do Control and drag to infuse these together, holding down the Shift key. I'm going to make sure my active symmetry is off because these are not symmetrical. But essentially, I just want to infuse them so it feels like a bunch of skin is connected properly, right? So this feels pretty good. Let's go ahead and this side do the same thing. Just kind of infuse it all together. Really cool. And now check this out very quickly. We created custom arms with hands and fingers that are holding the weapon the way we need it to be without overcomplicating too much, right? So I think this looks fantastic. At this point, I would definitely like to save this And again, we don't really need ZSpheres anymore, so I vote we just delete those. Keep everything nice and clean. And I think it would be really cool if we just created a little bit of a clay polish on our character to add some sharpness to him. Let's do that now. I'm going to go to Geometry, find Clay Polish, and let's play with these. Alright, so you can find what you like, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to do 51, 60, 40. This one is going to be 57, the soft, and the repeat soft is going to be 37. So these are my numbers. Now take a look at the before and after, right? This is just total preference. If I look at the character right now, this is what it looks like. If I hit it with the clay polish, take a look. It's going to add this sharp detail. I'm going to control and drag to get rid of the mask. But some of these have been sharpened and creased and even pinched, right? And it did it in such a way where I really like the result, right? I like this skin here to be a little bit sharper. On the back, you can see all of these got sharper, and it just gave me something even more unique and something that I like. I like how these hands got kind of pinched in an interesting way, and this right here feels really good too. If you don't like some of it specifically, you can of course smooth this out. But honestly, these numbers right here really give me something really interesting, and I love this a lot, right? So this is really cool. Awesome. I'm gonna go with this. As a final step, I would love to give him a helmet, but before I do, maybe I can actually fatten up some of these fingers. To do that, I'm gonna go to Inflate, and let me just literally take the ends of the fingers and just make them a little more round. I think something like that is gonna give me that cartoony blobby feel that kind of matches his antennas, and just overall, I think it makes more sense for the hands to be not so skinny, right? Let me go ahead and do that with this one. Just bubble this up a little more. Do the same thing with that one and down here. And I personally like this great. I don't really want this to accidentally be re-Dynameshed because I don't want to infuse those fingers together. So I'm going to go ahead and jump out of the Dynamesh. So at this point, if I accidentally, do control and drag, I know I'm not going to mess anything up. I can hold on the shift key, smooth anything that I don't like. But this right here, in my opinion, is pretty cool. So to create the helmet, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go to Subtools, and let me just simply insert a sphere, and I'm going to turn the sphere into Q-sphere so we can start using zModeler. So let's go to Q-sphere. Let's turn it something really small, 5 by 5 by 5. Click on Q-sphere, grab our move, and let's turn this right here into some kind of a sci-fi helmet, right? I'm going to jump out of the perspective view, and let's start playing with this. So the first thing I need to make sure is that it's enveloping his entire head, essentially going all the way down to his neck. I can even rotate this so kind of the topology matches the flow of the character. So I feel like something like this is pretty awesome. I actually love how the ears are sticking out. Maybe we can use that to our advantage. And now let's go ahead and play with this, right? All right, so I'm going to turn on my poly frame. Let's do auto groups. And now let the fun begin. I'm going to go to zModeler. And the first thing I would love to do initially is let me remove the bottom part of this helmet. So to do that, I'm going to solo it. Let's go to zModeler. Let's select Alt, press Alt. Let's select all of these faces here. And let's say I want to delete all of this. So I'm going to hover over this polygon, go to delete, single poly, and just simply click to delete. All right. I'm not in the perspective mode. I'm looking at this gizmo here, so I know this is on the side. And I definitely want to straighten these lines out so I can do something with them, right? Let's go ahead and do that now. How would I straighten this line out? Well, I can press Control, Quick Pick, select Lasso, and I can just simply select these points on the bottom. Do Control and click to flip my mask. Go to Move. Let's unlock this, put it right here. We can rotate this if we needed to. Lock this back up and just scale this whole section down, right? I'm going to scale it down. And now I'm going to control and drag to clear my mask. And if I wanted to do anything down here, maybe I need to straighten this line as well. So I can go to zModeler, hover over this edge, go to, let's go to delete edge loop complete. Let's just delete that whole edge to clean this up, right? And now let me do this. I'm gonna jump out of the solo and take a look and see how this is actually fitting on the character. It feels like it needs a little bit of an adjustment. So maybe we can do something like this. And at this point, I can, of course, grab my Move Infinite brush and just kind of custom fit it onto his head. I want to make sure that this part is not going into his skin. This is going to be a little bit lower, right, on the back. So there's going to be a little bit of an angle. And then, of course, this needs to come down to cover his, you know, his chin, right? So it's going to be like a custom fit from the side view. All right, really cool. Let's take a look and see how it's feeling. I think this is great. Now, let's start adding more and more detail, right, to our helmet. Maybe I can just make sure this is nice and round and everything feels, you know, feels good, right? This shape right here is really important. You want to make sure that nothing is touching or intersecting, because if we start building a somewhat complex model out of this, we want to make sure that the base shape is working perfectly, right? The foundation of the helmet needs to be perfect before we do any additional work. So the first thing we should do is probably open up the front. But before we open up the front, let's create like a border in the bottom, right? So to do that, I'm going to go to ZModeler. Let me hover over this edge, do insert, single edge loops, and I'm just going to add an edge loop right here. That's going to be kind of the bottom border for my helmet. All right. If I wanted to, I can go to Move Infinite, make my brush really small. I can individually move these points around as well. Just make sure my thickness feels good from all, you know, from every angle. All right, very cool. Let's go back to ZModeler, and now let's punch a hole through for his face. So I'm going to press Alt, select all of these here, probably all of these as well. And I'm trying to figure out how much of a space do I want. I'm going to grab probably these two. And this right here, I think needs to go, right? Let's go ahead and hover over this polygon, go to delete single poly, and just simply click to delete. Let's turn double on. Jump out of the transparency, and now we have this. I'm gonna go to perspective view, just see how it feels. Fun. Okay, so next let's go ahead and give our helmet a little bit of a thickness. So if you wanted to, you can press Ctrl D to subdivide this, and I think that is gonna be useful because it's gonna round this off a little more and give us more geometry to play with, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm only at 408 points for this anyway, so this is great. I'm going to go to geometry. Let me delete lower. And next, I want to give it a little bit of a thickness. So to do that, I can hover over a polygon, go to extrude. Let's do all polygons. Let's just give it a little bit of a thickness. So I want my helmet to be somewhat thick and cartoony, so I like this right here. I think this is great. If I wanted to, I can go to Move, make sure my active symmetry is on, and I can continue adjusting it to make sure it feels like it's fitting the character the best it can. So maybe something like that is pretty cool. Let's jump out of the poly frame and take a look. So for the antennas right here, we can do a couple things. We can, of course, punch a hole through, or we can create an illusion like these antennas are coming out of something by just simply inserting a cylinder. So we can insert a cylinder, or I can also go to my brushes, press I. Let's go into something like the IMM modeling kit, press M, and maybe we could use something like, even this one right here I think will work. Circular 16 or 17. I'll go for the 17 one. And if I wanted to, I can make sure my active symmetry is on and just simply create the round surface. Now it's catching the antenna, so I do need to go here. Let me just turn this off for a minute, put this in. So I'll make it nice and large. I think this is great. Let's go ahead and turn this back on, see if it's working. I feel like maybe, I guess I made it too large. Let me undo that. I'm gonna hide the antenna again. Just try this again. I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller this time. All right, turn this back on. Really cool. Now I can make this work. I'm gonna grab my move, make it maybe. Let me pull this into the helmet a little more. Grab my move, press Alt, select the antennas, make them a little bit larger, make sure my active symmetry is on. And now I just need to adjust this a little bit, right? I can move it so it feels like it's aligned and coming in from the center of this little widget or gadget. All right, I'm gonna press Alt, go back to this shape, and I think I'm done with everything. So I would like to split it for now. I'm gonna go to split, do split on mask points. Make sure these guys are on its own layer, just in case I want to do any more work to it. Doesn't look like I will, but if I did, I could, right, I have full control. Maybe I can inflate this just a little bit, just make it a little bit stronger. Sweet, let's go ahead and go back to the helmet. Next, let's go ahead and solo this, and maybe let's come up here, go to zModeler. All right, let's add some detail on the bottom here. So I can go to poly group. We'll do poly loop. Make sure active symmetry is on, and we can click on this one, and maybe this one, and maybe even this one as well. All right, next we can go to extrude. Let's do poly group all. Maybe we can pull this out just a little bit. Just feels like there is something on both sides here, and I think that's pretty cool. Let's also do press Alt. I'm going to select all of these faces here, and maybe there's like a speaker or a microphone that we could create. So we can go to inset, single poly. Let's switch it to inset each poly, and let's just do something like this. All right, and to pull these guys in, I can go to extrude. Let's do polygroup all. I'm going to take these faces here and just pull them in, and take a look. It feels like maybe there's like a speaker or some kind of a microphone in the front. Jump out of the solo. Let's review and see how it's feeling. All right, I think the bottom is done. Let's do maybe a little more on the side here. All right, now I have something like this. I could do more and more. I feel like I can grab my move brush, and it feels like these faces right here need to be adjusted on my end a little more. So I'm gonna actually pull this to be a little straighter. So maybe do something like that. No rules, I'm just kind of playing. Jump out of the perspective view if I wanted to. I can even grab my move infinite brush, right? And this way I know I'm doing it perfectly all the way on both sides, and I can maybe adjust how this is feeling. Just a little bit. I think even just like just even that right there feels much better. If I wanted to subdivide this and see what that looks like, before I subdivide it, let me go to geometry. Let's go to crease, and I'm going to do a crease and do Control D to subdivide this and see how that's feeling. I think that looks pretty fantastic. All right, so I think this is as far as I'm going to take it as far as the modeling goes. I'm really happy with how he turned out. We can do a quick BPR, see how he's looking. I think he's pretty awesome. Let's go ahead and add maybe a little bit of a poly paint. So for poly paint, I have numerous tutorials showing how to do that. It's pretty simple and straightforward, just literally painting right onto the mesh. And using poly groups, you can separate separate pieces, like the weapon. I can, of course, assign different colors to it. But essentially, very quickly, I got to this point right here. Next, I'm just gonna probably decimate it with poly paint, bring it into Blender, and see how he's looking there. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you learned something, maybe enjoyed this video, and please consider joining my channel as a member. That helps me tremendously. And if you would like to subscribe and like this video, I would appreciate that as well. Thank you again, and I'll see you guys in our next one.